evening, folks. Happy Thanksgiving Day from Northern Virginia. Running this chicken up here for Friday morning. Traffic surprisingly light. Nobody went to Grandma's house. Reading an article before I left today, town close to where I live, they got restaurants and stuff actually closing their doors for good because they can't get anybody to work, and they're offering real good money for as far as the service job goes. I don't think it's they don't want to work. I got a theory on this, and y'all tell me if I'm crazy or not, but it makes sense to me. Back when I was younger, rarely did you ever see a woman that worked. Usually the women, now the ones right out of college who weren't married, yeah, they go to work. But once they got married and started having kids, they generally didn't work. Didn't need to. The man made plenty of money to pay the bills, and her stay at home, raise the children. You call it sexist, call it whatever you want, but it is what it is. I don't think it's any of those things. It's generally the way nature works. Mothers are the nurturing teachers for their children. So it's naturally then tend to stay home, raise them. Well, this went on till the 80s. Our last big bout with inflation. And it got to where Mama would get a job. Start out, she'd just get a job in the afternoon, or maybe evenings and weekends when Daddy wasn't working. We were different kids back then too. We'd come back off the bus, Mama say, you take your butt in that house, you stay in that house until one of us gets home. Or you check in with so-and-so, one of the neighbors. And that's what we did. There weren't no babysitters. Daycares were nearly non-existent when I was a kid. They just didn't exist. Slowly, Mama started going to work, and it got to the point where she had to go to work just to make the bills, just to pay the bills. And we went on that way now for 25, 30 years until present day. My kids, I was raising kids in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. I generally could get daycare for my children $50-$60 a week. I see people out there now giving $200 plus a week for one child. Now here's my idea of what happened. COVID hit, They send people home. They send people home. Then these poor mothers had 2 or 3 kids. Every time one of the kids sneezed, school was calling me, you gotta come get your kid. Gotta give him a COVID test, blah, 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 whatever. So it made it where the mothers or fathers or whichever parent was taking care of this issue basically could not work because they were constantly back and forth to the school, fetching their kids, taking them to get COVID tests, then sitting with them through quarantine. And then naturally, since their kid was exposed, the parents couldn't go back to work until they were quarantined. What happened is these parents started, their kids naturally weren't going to daycare, and they weren't having all the expenses of the second parent working. Their get out of daycare, food to eat, clothes to wear, gas to burn, and everything it costs for that second parent to go to work. And I think a lot of these parents, especially ones that had lower paying, like service sector jobs, realized they were merely breaking even or losing money by working instead of staying home with their kids. Because it's just gotten so expensive for your kid to be taken care of. I have no proof of this. It's just kind of an idea that came to me. And but I think it makes sense. If you're bringing home $350 a week, it's a kind of service job, and your daycare's $250, what are you working for? You're working to pay that daycare center. I'm dead. If that's the numbers, you're losing money. Run that idea through your noggin to see if it doesn't make sense and why those parents have not gone back to work. They've got home, they're raising their children the way nature kind of intended it. Nature kind of intended that the parents raise their children, and they like it, so they don't. That's just a big reason they don't want to go back to work. And unless it's going to pay them a substantial sum of money, they're not going to put their kids back in daycare. They're going to stay at home with their children. Over and down there in the comments tell me if I'm a fool or not. But I appreciate y'all. I appreciate it if you I'd appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe, support the channel. Nice evening, and I'll catch you on the flip side.